Chad Brixey is going to come up and speak about this gentleman, so I'm just going to give you a couple quick highlights about him. In the freestyle world, it's not as easy to define greatness as motocross. There's not as many contests, so a lot of it is by reputation. And when Chad Brixey told me that Jimmy Pitts was deserving of being here, that's as high a praise as you can get. A CSFA champion and competed. How many of you remember the DARE program? The drug and alcohol. Oh, my brother was a safety kid. Anybody else was a safety kid? So I take that as a no. But they used to do these shows, and Jimmy Pitts was one of those riders who would come out and do shows. But to present him, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Hall of Famer and contributor and one of my best friends for 40 years now, Rad Chad Brixey.
So every year I say to myself, I need to write some stuff down, I need to take some notes, I need to have some bullet points or something to say. And this is the third year now that I've had to introduce somebody. I've never wrote a single freaking note. I don't have any bullet points, I don't have any speech. But I was sitting thinking a little while ago about what's some of the good times that we had. Because Jimmy and I rode together a lot. We did a lot of shows together. And even more than that, just sitting in the front of his mom and dad's house, riding till the middle of the night, like whether it was cold, whether it was 100 and seemed like a million degrees at the time. But I remember this one story. We always had, the little boom box in front of the house, no telling what was playing. But his mom and dad are like, the most respectable, honorable people. And one time, we had put a Guns N' Roses live tape, brand new, haven't heard it yet. We put this in, we're playing the song, We're Way Up the Road Riding. And you hear the music, and you know the songs, but then all of a sudden they're saying something that's different. It's not the words that are in the song. It sounds like a George Carlin concert. I mean, it's like the 7 words and they're going at it. And I see, and Jimmy and I both look at each other, like, oh no, this is not good. And we're way up the road. So we come flying back up the road, and maybe we got there in time. Maybe we got there in time. Maybe they didn't hear it. And about the time we get to the boombox, his mom's at the door. What was that on? Like, oh no, this is not good. But they let us get away with who knows, murder. We rode all over the city, and different time, different place. Like, I would never think about doing that now with my kids, but we were all over the place. We had the best of times. Jimmy rode when freestyle was like completely dead. There's nobody out there riding. We did shows for 4 or 5 people. Sometimes there would be as many people riding as there would be watching. It didn't matter. We were out there, we were putting our time in, we had a great time doing it. He's one of the best guys, absolutely one of the best riders in the Midwest. Still rides today, never really stopped. And he kept telling me when I told him he was going to be part of this, he's like, man, I just don't know. I don't think I deserve this. I just don't think I deserve it. Well, you're here, your name's on there, and I want to introduce you as the newest member to the Missouri Motocross Hall of Fame, Jimmy Pitts.
Woo! I don't think I have to say anything. Anyone who really knows me knows that I would rather have a bad crash than speak in front of people. And my daughter was going to come up here with me, so the cute little thing right there. If I keep this short, which I'm going to try, it's because of her. She saw my notes earlier. She goes, dude, that's a lot of words, and I don't want to be there all night. So thank you. I love you too. I'll try to just, I'm going to probably use this. I'm like Jeff over here. I need the glasses, man. I had surgery and I still need glasses.
Goes back to the head injuries.
Yeah, right? Exactly, exactly. So, yeah, I just want to say it's truly an honor to be here today, and it's somewhat surreal because when I was at my best as a writer, like Chad said, we were competing and doing shows, and then the freestyle trend just completely died. I mean, died. And that actually started the most, like the best years of my time writing. It just became very personal. It was just completely about pushing yourself, and it didn't matter who liked it, who watched anything. But all the contests, all the major contests ended when the trend and all the pink bikes and everything ended. That all went away too. Sponsorships, the magazines that existed covered the coasts. So the Midwest riders had to kind of make their own way, make their own contests, their own shows, like he said, just a few people watching. And we had rad cats like Brett Foster, that he's deceased now, but he never got the credit he deserved. One of the best writers, I think, in the world that there was. And so the Midwest did breed a lot of talent, even if it wasn't recognized. So for Craig and Mary to do this and to include us with the motocross guys, the racers, and gals, yeah, to include us is really nice, you know, and something that I never, ever expected in a million years. Like I said, there was no X Games then. I don't have an amazing roster of accomplishments other than a couple years. But I'm so glad to see the evolution of the sport. I'm so glad that there are the X Games, and not just for freestyle, but for all extreme sports. I just want to see if there's anything I missed, but even though it's evolved like that, I'm so glad that I was a part of that fledgling scene and that underground scene, and I got to see it go from so popular in movies and things to nothing, and then build back up to just this crescendo that we have right now. That's just, every time you watch the X Games, it's like, no, that's a video game, that's not real. So anyway, I'll get to my thanks here, and I'm gonna cheat. My thanks go first of all to Craig and Mary and Chad. Sorry if I can't find anybody. I can't see distance with these, only close. So I'm kind of, where is everybody? Anyway, all those years that Chad and I rode together and went to contests, we just created a lifelong friendship. I'm so honored, you know, for him to introduce me, my former teammate and just always my friend. I'd like to thank my wife and kids for always being my cheerleaders, my parents, Joe and Betty. I'd like to thank them for taking me to shows and contests. Mom usually took me to shows, and then Dad taught me so much about hard work and perseverance. And definitely wouldn't be here without that influence. My mom and I also ended up having some adventures, driving one way on all those crazy streets in Sedalia. I don't know if you're familiar, that's where there were contests. And yeah, we had some scary drives, but we bonded, and I so appreciated that. I want to thank my brother Chuck and his family for making the trip all the way from Kansas City. I'd like to thank my, and anybody else who traveled. Hey, give yourself a hand if you travel, because this is important. And then my sister from Elena and her family, and then just all of my extended family and all of my friends. And then most importantly, I just want to dedicate this and thank all the people that I rode with. Obviously, I mentioned Chad. And then there's also guys like Chris Small right here in the crowd, who's actually riding with his sons now, so watch out for them. They're going to be amazing. Jay Brand, Brett Whitney, Corey Bradley, who's got in the hall last year, and so many others. It was a complete blast. Those are the times that I would not trade for anything, even though sometimes we got in trouble with the law or we came home injured. And sometimes those were, like Chad said earlier, those were sometimes the best time. You're like limping, oh man, that was rad. And then I want to thank my neighbors. Like Chad said, we got away with everything. And we were in a neighborhood that was mostly retired folks or working people. We'd be out there just playing metal and like really aggro music and our crazy bikes and crowds of kids. We'd ride in their driveways, we'd jump their curbs. And I never got any grief. I lived in the best neighborhood because like they would tell me, hey, you just keep us young. You know, you're keeping, and now I'm getting older and I kind of understand, except I'm one of the grumpy guys, like, get off my lawn. but I'll try to be better for the Ledgerwoods and the Martins, and they're no longer here. I need to carry on their tradition of supporting kids doing crazy things on bikes and motorcycles. Anyway, lastly, I want to recognize just all the amazing talents across all of the extreme sports, and from the start, the people that started all these sports, the people that have carried it on even when popularity is waned, when there wasn't money, there wasn't sponsorships, and then the people that are pushing it just into this, what I call like the impossibly possible of the future. And lastly, I just kind of want to say also, when I was a kid, my interest was actually motocross. And when I'm talking before I got into freestyle, and while I was watching my dad and my brother, they would go to Chadwick. They'd be jumping over homemade jumps at construction sites. They'd be airing it out. And I was so inspired to try my hand at it. But the very first time I got on a bike was a mini bike. You remember? About this big. And Dad was like, oh, he doesn't need a helmet. It's just a mini bike. He's just trying it out. My brother, thankfully, or else I probably wouldn't be here today, was like, let's put a helmet on Jim. I crashed right into my grandma's Clark Griswold paneled station wagon. No joke, head first. And after that, due to an abundance of caution from my lovely mother and probably some input from our insurance agent, I switched to pedals and pegs. Yeah. And you know what? My head and my heart have never been the same. I just want to say, Craig and Mary, you're doing something very special here. Thank everybody in this room for what you do. Thank them, thank Chad, thank all the riders and racers. Oh my gosh, you guys are all champions, legends of your craft. Right on, everybody. Let's make it bigger next year.